Welcome to another Get Mental podcast. I'm Trevor Connor. With me is a couple of my team members. I got George Rivers. I got Jacob. We're missing Dave. We're missing Corey. Perhaps we need to get a podcast with all of us on sometime. I know we're all going to be together in a couple months, but today here's what we're covering. We're covering a little bit about Hearts and Minds, our story, our background, and also about where we're going as a company. I think sometimes we get really caught up, and I'm guilty of this. We get really caught up on wanting to educate and wanting to inform people about how to be tougher, how to be better. And I think sometimes we overlook the most simple things. Who are we? And who are we as a company? And it's cool to be joined with, guys that are on our team that they share the same heart, the same mindset, the same vision of what we're looking to do. So, you guys ready to rock?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Let's rock. All right. Well, pretty straightforward. We're going to talk a little bit about our vision, our mission, and who we are, what makes us Hearts and Minds. Let's start with kicking you, George. Like, why did you, when I recruited you to join Hearts and Minds a year ago, because you've been with us since May of 2023, you're the newest member on the team. What stuck out to you that made you even want to join the team? Because we're beyond just sports psychology and mental training. Like, what made you want to even join rank?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And the thing that stuck out to me the most is when we were talking in the coffee shop and everything, you were explaining the dynamics of the business, explaining the ins and outs, what I would do, what my role would be, what you do, what other members of the team do. And the thing that really stuck out to me the most is there was not one mention, no monetary value, anything at all. It was solely of, hey, we're doing this because we want to help people. And, this is the vehicle to do that because we're all sports guys, grew up in that environment. And that's the thing that just stuck out to me the most is that, like, these guys genuinely want to help people. And money is not an issue. Yeah, of course, money is a great thing, but that's not the driving force behind the company. And you can talk to many other companies, interview at many other places, and that's something that's always coming up. And it didn't come up one time. So I'm like, okay, wow, these guys genuinely are invested in the soul business. And that's what really, really hooked me. And I could really make a difference here. And that really hit me hard. And that's when I was like, went home after that, is like, this is it. This is it. So
yeah, the soul business is our soul business. That should be our slogan.
Hey, I see what you did. Yeah. That's funny though, because I know I've said it to you, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I've said it to you, but yeah, we are in the soul business, SOUL. Like, we care. All right, so Hearts Minds, the name of the company. The reason why I named it that is, as much as I care about the mindset of an athlete, that's cool, that's good. I want athletes to perform better. I do. But I care a heck of a lot more about who you are and who you're becoming. That matters to me tenfold. And if my team doesn't get behind that, I'm failing you. And I'm failing, the people that we're looking to serve and the people that we're looking to help. So we are legitimately in the soul business. So, yeah. No, George has done a lot in a short amount of time for our company too, 10 months. We'll talk about it a bit too, but he's already published his first book. And that was a shock to him a year ago, 12 months ago. He wasn't even thinking about being a published author, but you are. Jacob, you and I, we've known each other for a few years.
Oh my gosh. How many years has it been? 6 years? 7?
It's been 6 years.
Or 6 or 7 years.
My goodness.
Yeah.
You and I, our relationship goes as long as Hearts and Minds was founded. Hearts and Minds was founded in May of 2018. You and I met each other May of 2018. So when we celebrate our 6-year anniversary in May this year, 2 months or a month and a half,
It'll be 6 years.
It'll be 6 years from when you and I met.
That's wild. Yeah. So I met Trevor. I was trained at a tennis academy, so I'm a tennis player, and Trevor had come to this tennis academy, to work with some of the athletes and, stuff like that. And there was a coach there, super, good coach at the time. And he, Trevor asked this coach, hey, what kid needs, mental training the most. And pretty sure he said, oh, just listen, you'll hear it. So then, of course, he hears me yelling it. And clarification, I wasn't yelling because I was, wasn't smashing rackets, wasn't yelling at my opponent. The point is, I was kind of beating up on myself. So Trevor, kind of took me under his wing kind of thing. I wanted to get better. I wanted to kind of break through that, but it was going to take a long while. And then since then, Trevor and I, we've been at the hit since that point. I moved to Florida because of this guy.
Wait, you moved away from me?
I know it was totally your fault. I had a coach, was great technically, and but I'd kind of reached my limit of training. I didn't have a great group of people to train with. I just had a good private coach. Then Trevor was like, "Hey, why don't you move to Florida to train?" Right, and that's kind of how that happened. That's another story for me. But yeah, we've known each other for a long time.
6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, the background on that story, I show up. It's my first day working with this club. I'm just walking around meeting coaches, shaking hands. Nice to meet you guys. And anyway, I met this one coach, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, man, of all the athletes here, which athlete could benefit the most?" Per Jacob's story, he's right. That's exactly how it went down. But there's another side. I asked this coach, I said, which one of these kids or athletes could benefit the most? He said, "Just listen. He's a few courts away." And I said, "You're not going to tell me anymore?" He goes, "Just listen, bro. I'm telling you." And sure enough, I hear this cute little kid about 3 courts away, and he's pissed. And I turn around, and I look back at that coach. And the coach just, you ought to see him, man. He's just smiling. And he goes, "His name is Jacob." Okay. So then I'm 2-3 courts away, and I just start studying Jacob, and I see him getting frustrated. The simplest, silliest things, but I thought, wow, this guy puts a lot of pressure on himself, and I want to know more. So anyway, I ended up going up to your mom, because your mom was happened to be there to pick you up or transport you. And I went up to Mom, and I just got to know her, just shook her hand. And what I didn't realize is that Mom had already kind of been turned off by sports psychology or the idea of mindset coaching. And I was just curious. I'm not there to sell anything. I could care less. I see a young man hard on himself, so let me dig in a little bit and find out. Mom wasn't interested. And I said, "Well," I go, "do you mind if I just chat with him a few times, just privately, and just get to know him?" And she does this. "Be my guest."
I didn't know that part of the story. That's funny.
I mean, because she was frustrated she didn't know how to help.
Oh, yeah.
And, that story's not unique. There's a lot of parents that they want their athlete to improve. They want them to be better. They just don't know how. And I think sometimes in my world, our world, sports psych world, we're so quick to give advice. We're so quick to give information. But when we slow down and when we just listen to people, you can learn a lot. And so I did. I slowed way down. I didn't care. I want to learn what's up with this guy. So anyway, you're really hard on yourself. You used to be. You still are a little.
I am in other ways.
You are. But the better thing is like, I see so much growth and maturity in you because you've learned how to shift your perspective and not just be so narrow-minded on outcome and result. So it's been cool watching you grow up, though.
It's been a journey.
So Jacob is very humble, but Jacob is a genius. He does so many things for us, with us, and you talk about being in the soul business. Jacob gets it, and he's one of the products of what we do and how we've helped athletes just forget just performing. Like, who are you becoming?
Yeah, I'm a product of the farm system.
The farm system, and brought you up from
the minor leagues.
Ultimately, I shared this with my wife, but one of the goals I have is to be able to, as we add coaches to our team, as we add members to our team, they were former athletes or they were former recipients of what we're training, or they understand who we are. I would love to be able to hire from within the farm system. I like that. That's good. Recruiting from the minors. But no, I would love to build an eclectic team around people that understand the mission, the true heart and nature of who we are.
But I mean, it's a good thing to bring up, that my story is not exactly unique, because, a lot of, this is something we've talked about before, a lot of kids are struggling, especially there's a lot of kids that, in all sports, in individual sports, it's a little different manifestation of it, but it's across all sports that kids are just really either hard on themselves or they crack under pressure or anything. And there's a lot of reasons. We talked about it before,
Yep. What do you see?
Personally, the biggest thing that I see that really holds a lot of young athletes back, and even, elites, college, mature athletes, is being afraid of being uncomfortable. If you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, the biggest thing I'm seeing, especially with the younger generation, younger kids, is they're forced into an environment that is uncomfortable, whether it be tennis match or a game of another sport or even a hard workout. They're hit with adversity. They're uncomfortable, not feeling good. First thing that they do is shut down or quit or just be like, maybe this just isn't for me today.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that I see that is just holding so many athletes back, is that they're not open to the idea of being uncomfortable, which in all reality, sports, when are you ever comfortable in sports? Maybe I could count on my own hand, maybe 5 times on tennis court in 28 years where I'm like, yeah, I'm at home. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling comfortable. Now, rarely ever happens, but in today's society, with a lot of juniors, even college kids, is boom, they're hit with that adversity. They're put thrust into an uncomfortable situation. They don't know how to handle it, or they don't want to handle it. They don't want to do the things that they need to do to overcome that. It's one of the biggest problems that I see with a lot of juniors, college athletes at the same time.
That's really interesting. You said not wanting to do something about it. That makes me think of a story. It literally just happened last night. I was coaching an athlete, and he was talking to me about, I'm having a hard time winding down before bed. My sleep is being affected. I said, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. I said, well, take me through your routine. I'll save you a bunch of drama, but here's the thing. The kid would start a Netflix series at 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. to wind down. And he has this urge or compulsion that he has to keep watching the next episode. Well, Netflix and these Hulu and, these companies, they're designed to keep you hooked. Cliffhanger endings, right? And I said, well, dude, the solution is real simple. And he goes, what's that? I go, delete the app. You had seen it. He just froze. And he goes, what do you mean? Did I stutter? Delete the app, bro. And he just, but I don't know if I can't. You said you have a problem. We've identified a issue. Do you want actual help or not? Well, I do. I'm going to say it one more time. Let's make sure we hear it crystal clear. Delete the app. 3 words. So you know what he does? He ends up deleting the app. I said, okay, now open screen time using your phone. Let's see what other apps are taking your attention. Next one, YouTube. And I said, so what are we watching on YouTube? Oh, man, I just get down a rabbit hole and I just start thinking this and looking at this. And do you want help? I'm asking for consent. And he goes, yeah. I said, do you really want help? Second time I asking for consent. Yes, I do. Delete the app. See, sometimes we have the most simplest things that we can do, and we're unwilling to do it. And it took me getting intense and raising my voice. Delete the camera. Delete it. Okay, I didn't say it like that. It's amazing that you just mentioned that if there's a lot of kids, when it comes to comfortable, unwilling to do the simple thing. Why is that? I don't know. You're a young guy.
Well, I mean, if you remember, the main thing that you always tried to get me to do is get out of my comfort zone. You know, I have stories on stories of that. It's funny when I met Trevor, one of the things he had me do, I don't know if you know this, George. One of the things he had me do is he was like, okay, we're going to write a contract, right? And one of the things on that contract, and of course, you know, it wasn't like I was a minor, so it's not, you know, my mom's side, you know.
Mom was there for
Mom was there for it. She was totally, because I wanted to do it, but he was like, okay, you know, in this contract, there was a clause that said, I'll paraphrase, you do whatever I say, unless I'm putting you in direct danger. And if you want to, you know, void this contract, you have to send me a written letter, which, first of all, that would have been uncomfortable for me in the first place, but you have to send me a written letter of your resignation, that kind of thing. And the main thing that contract got at was, you know, hey, everything I'm going to make you do is going to make you uncomfortable, you know? So the thing for me at the time, to answer your question, it's just a fear of change, you know? It's a fear of change because we think we're in a world, especially my generation, we're in a world where we see so much chaos and so much vile content and so much change that we don't like. And so we try to find stability and control in where we are in our little bubble of the world. And sports, I guess, is kind of our outlet to do that, especially the athletes, where when we win, when things go well, it's all good. Or if you lose, it's because you chose to lose versus I lost because I'm not good, or I lost because I need to get better. We don't like that because it implies that you need to change. And I think that gets into the thing we've talked about this before. We briefly talked about this before the podcast, was the arrogance versus self-esteem factor, which I'll let you explain a little and flesh out.
There's a child psychologist named Dr. Tim Elmore. He wrote an amazing little PDF short book. I'm pretty sure it came from one of his speeches. I'm not sure, but I'm a big fan of his work. And one of the problems, he identified this back in 2013-14. Parents are really quick to rescue. They rescue athletes or kids too quickly. I mean, we don't give them opportunity to fail enough. That goes to George's point, doing hard things, right? Another is we risk too little. And I forget the third. It'll come back to me. But there's one big problem he helped identify 10 years ago. It's 2024 now. This is 2013-14 when I read this, is there's a growing epidemic in young people where these athletes and kids, they're growing high arrogance but low self-esteem. I blame devices a lot for it. I blame not willing to do uncomfortable things a lot. But I also blame, an athlete's worldview is totally contorted. They live in this veneer of real versus perception of this is how my life is. Reality is, that ain't how your life is, because you just took, I'm thinking of that Instagram girl that what they call them, thirst traps.
Yeah.
You take like this 20, 25 pictures, getting the right angle, the right shadow, the right thing, and then that take 20 minutes to get the right one picture, and you take another 10 minutes to get the right filter. So the problem with that is it's not real.
No. And it brings up a point. George calling this, 'cause I'm curious about your experience with this. We're seeing athletes specialize so early. And this is one thing Trevor had told me a long time ago, or I think it had come up actually when he was working for this academy where I'm at. If you look at Nike shirts and you look at all these shirts and they say ball is life, soccer is life, or football for you non-American, but sport is life, right? And I don't know what your experience was like with tennis when you were a junior, but did you have that thing of like, this is my life? Because I know I have.
Yeah, and especially, growing up is, tennis was a huge part of life, and it truly was my identity. And hit me.
There it is.
Yeah, 100% my identity. And I had never had a loss that I didn't until I had a major injury. I rolled over, broke my ankle. It's about 15 years old. And I'll always remember sitting in my room, crouched up the stairs, sitting on my bed with my cast on, and I was just staring at the wall. It's just like, who am I? Like, not playing tennis anymore. I physically cannot play tennis. Like, what do I do with myself? What else am I good at? And when you start asking yourself those questions of, what do I do now? What am I good at? What do I like enjoy doing outside of tennis? And when you don't have answers, that's a huge major problem. And I see that within a lot of kids these days. A lot of kids, but I honestly think it's a lot worse than when I was younger. Because look at homeschool programs. So look at every major academy now has some sort of homeschool integration within their academy. Every place you go to, no matter how big or small. When I was around, there's maybe two places in Texas. Maybe two places in Texas. Now, every place has a homeschool option. Every place has a live-in option. And it just creates just so much pressure on these young kids. And so I think that their identities are even more warped when I was growing up.
I'm going to interject because that's something that George talks about in his book, which quick plug, Invisible Weapon. It's hmperform.com. We have it for sale. He talks about that.
It's a bestseller.
It's a bestseller. And on Amazon, he talks about that ankle injury in his book. Another quick story. So like I'm 18, almost 19 now. And I've been training tennis since I was, I played since 4, got serious at around 11. Training 5 hours a day, like really hard. And I had suddenly played my first pro tournament and lifelong dream, try to play pro, be top 100. And after the tournament, long story short, I sustained bilateral pelvis fractures. And similar thing, it's like, and the difference between my story and yours, George, is I didn't stop. So like I kept playing through the pain because I felt that tennis was, I had to be a tennis player. It was my identity. I had no other hobbies, and that's something Trevor. But then after that, I was like, oh yeah, finally back. And then this was a year later, finally back. And then I get a mysterious, like still don't know what it is, autoimmune disorder injury. And I just trained in France for like 2 months. I was great, come back. And then it's like, oh, I can't play. So I had to come to terms with that same thing. It's like, am I really who am I, kind of thing. And I think that's why you see a lot of, personally, I've seen a lot of young athletes deal with like depression and, mental medical conditions or, transient conditions that because sport, either if they're not successful, they don't get recruited, they get injured. And that's the thing with I brought the specialization early.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this and I'll pass to you, Trevor, so there's a book by David Epstein, no relation to the point I'm to bring that up, just for clarification, I bring that up to everybody. He wrote a book called Range, and it's about how certain athletes should generalize, right, instead of specialize. And he makes the notion of Roger Federer, who, even though we know Federer is one of the GOATs of tennis, depending on who you ask, most graceful player who's ever touched the court. And when he was young, he played basketball, soccer, he skied, tennis. He did not start specializing in tennis. He was 14, man. Here in the U.S., if you're a basketball player and you're not specializing by 11 or 12, maybe 8, and you're not traveling AAU ball, back at baseball, you're not doing travel ball, people are going to think you're a casual.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem is we put our identity in sports so early.
I'll tell you what, being on this side of the table and this side of the conversation, I think it's really refreshing to hear a young person talking so candidly about identity. We need to clip that for social because that's huge. I see at least a dozen cases of young identity crises a year, and they hinge on uncontrolled events, an injury, a setback, a death in the family, not getting recruited, having to take a gap year because they want to increase their recruiting odds now. I see at least a dozen of these cases a year, and they're always messy. I think this really hinges on the reason why I wrote my book. So my book, as you guys know, is about control. Control what you can control. I got so ticked off, and I still get ticked off when people talk about it and they don't finish the sentence. Control what you can control. Great. What is that? What is that? Be specific. And the way we break it down, the way I break it down is there's 3 elements: attitude, concentration, and effort. Can we split some hairs and add some? Yeah, probably. But they're all going to come back to one of those elements. Part of identity is being able to accept the things out of your control. Sometimes it feels like trying to swallow a frog.
Well, you have experience with that because in college you have your own injury story.
You had injuries. Yeah.
Injuries for everyone. Injuries all around.
Should we call this the injury podcast?
No, right? The IR.
Jeez. No, I had my own injury, and it was shoulder. And I ended up having to have my shoulder repaired. I had torn my labrum, torn my rotator cuff. I had
and he was a pitcher,
pitcher and outfielder, and let's just say my career aspirations to play beyond college were gone instantly. But I mean, it was so bad where I couldn't close the door to my truck. It was that bad. I had to reach across and pull the truck door. When we have these moments that happen, it really forces us to come back and ask ourselves the tough questions that George did. Who am I? What matters? What's my life building towards? Here's the coaching. Do not wait for those moments to start asking the tough questions. And when we work with athletes, we encourage, and this is why we're in the soul business, is because I'm asking those questions up front. What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What's important to you? And you can't say play video games. You can't say hang out with friends, because both those answers are boring. You're boring. That has no real worth. Even if you're a stringer, I don't care. You're still boring.
Although I will say hanging out with friends has value from a standpoint of, keeping your social balance, but it's not a career. It's not a hobby. It's
what happens when those friends move away?
Right. They're transient. They're not going to be there forever.
That's right. And part of a hobby is it takes you to immersion in something else, something new, something different, something unique. And what it forces us to do is it challenges the status quo on who we are, what really matters. And the cool part is when you're engaging in hobbies, you're making new acquaintances and you're seeing the world in different lens. Something that we don't do a good job as athletes is getting outside our comfort zone. There it is.
Well, and a lot of us are finding community in sport too, which isn't terrible when you think about it. But when you lose that sport, you tend to lose that community. Because in tennis, you're playing, say, USTA tournaments, you're traveling around the nation and you're seeing the same guys all the time. You're playing the same guys. And you might not even be friends with them, but you know them and they know you. But then once you stop playing, it's like
what's happened inadvertently is you put yourself in a silo and you've isolated yourself.
Then I imagine that happened in college tennis too. Right. I mean, I would assume you're with the same teammates all the time, and there's camaraderie there. But
yeah,
what's your experience with so you got injured before college, correct? And then you came back and then you played college, right? After you left college, did you stay in contact with all your teammates? I mean, you were a coach, of course.
To an extent. I actually played at 2 different colleges. Tyler Junior College, my first 2 years, and then transferred to go play for Indiana University, go Hoosiers. And it's interesting because my teammates from TJC, we won a national championship my sophomore year. Amazing team. We never should have won on paper. Shouldn't have won, but we had a lot of adversity that season, but we figured things out and we won. And that's like a bond that I have with them, that I could call any one of them up at any minute, any second of the day. And, they'd answer the call in 2 seconds, right? So there's a very strong, impactful bond there. And then I keep in touch with a few Indiana teammates as well. And, but we had a rough time there, stories for another time. But I have kept some of those connections, some more strong than others. But at the same time, once we all started going into our own professional world, into the professional role, a good year or two after graduating, things started to drop off a little bit. You didn't have as strong as a connection because you had 10,
in commonality.
Or, yeah, exactly. So I could call up one of my teammates right now and, he's working in the finance. I had no idea what he does, how to communicate everything. And then I guarantee our conversation will revert back there. And you didn't play tennis lately? Tennis will always come up.
Right.
And so I have noticed that a little bit over the years. And since I had been out of college for a couple of years, yeah, absolutely. And once you lose that big identity, that things gradually fall apart again.
But I mean, that's why we created Focus 5. I mean, for the purpose of equipping athletes before those things happen. So you want to kind of break down what Focus 5 is.
Focus 5 was born out of need. 2020, COVID disrupted the entire world in virtually every industry. And I always knew sports was recession proof, but it's not pandemic proof, as we learned. So COVID interrupted the world. And okay, here's a really good reference. In 9 years, from 2011 to March of 2020, 9 years, I only had to refer 9 athletes to clinical mental health related services. 9 athletes in 9 years. And then COVID happens in March, shutdowns happen. From March until December, over the span of 9 months, I had to refer 13 athletes to clinical services. 13 athletes in 9 months.
And were those in individual sports or team sports?
Both.
Okay.
Yep. And that doesn't count the adults. Because as I was referring to the athlete, oftentimes mom and dad, I'm talking to them, and they said, man, I'm really struggling too. So I got them counselors too, or at least put them on. And I was talking with Dave, another member on our team, and I just told him, I said, this is a wake-up call. This is an absolute wake-up call for me. As a company, we are not doing enough to be proactive in training our athletes. So here's what happened is, as I mentioned before, Focus 5 was created out of need, necessity. Go back to when I was at the Olympic facility for years, 2013 to 16, 17, when I was working out there in Ohio. I was really, really, really good at helping athletes in a very short window of time. That'd be in the cafeteria. That'd be on the basketball court before they actually have practice. That'd be after practice. That'd be in between sets or reps at the pool, and the coach is giving them a 2-minute, heart rate recovery. That's in their track and field building. That's giving them a chance to, during stretching after they do their dynamic warm up, and then I talk with them. I go down and watch our high jumper, triple jumper do his jumps, and I'm talking to them in between.
And you're doing this with Olympia. Like when he says Olympic training facility, this is not just like this is not a gym that brands themselves as elite performance, which a lot of gyms will do and a lot of training facilities will do to get money out of parents' pockets. But this is like Olympians and gold medalists.
I was really blessed to work with some of the world's most elite athletes, and I think I lost count, somewhere around 60 Olympians I've worked with. And, I've worked with others, after that, because word gets out, reputation goes. When you do good work with people, they talk privately. So no, I don't boast about that. But to the point of Focus 5 I was really, really good at being really intentional with a few minutes. I was talking to Dave, and I said, what if we take the same concept, build it into an app, and we give people, not just access, give them an opportunity to brain train, mental train. And Dave and I went backwards a little bit. We asked a couple of really hard questions to ourselves. What are the biggest problems in our field? 2 big problems I've identified, and it's been pretty consistent for about 10 years. Been in the field since 2011, so 13 years. I'm coming up on 14 years. There's 2 main problems I see in sports psychology, mental training: accessibility and affordability. mental coaches, they're a dime a dozen now. Don't believe me? Go on Instagram. Go on TikTok. Well, the problem is the charge, right? Affordability. The other problem is accessible. You could DM them, and you may never ever get to a real person. I look at Dave and I said, let's solve both of those. Let's solve both those problems. He goes, well, how? I said, technology. Let's do it. So then got born the Focus 5 idea. What the Focus 5 is all about is we want 5 intentional discipline minutes of your attention. I don't care if you stream, 3 hours. We got 3 hours of, long form content if you want, read, but I want 5 intentional minutes. And it hinges back on the work that we were doing at the Olympics. So, well, research is also supporting the fact that when you can be real intentional with deliberate practice, it doesn't take much. A few minutes, you can rewire your brain. You can rewire your neural pathways in your thinking. That's what we're after. We're after changing habits and mindset and behavior.
And that comes back. That comes back to the point you told me a long time ago. If you get 1% better in 100 days, you're going to be twice the person you were 100 days ago.
It's hard to quantify improvement, but I guarantee I personally can quantify 1%. And that is a shift in my attitude a little bit today. You stack days now. When you stack days, you will be a different specimen. So Focus 5 was we want 5 intentional minutes, and then that solves the accessibility piece. Because, again, there's 2 problems, accessible and affordable. The accessible, we want to give athletes an opportunity and a way to connect with real people, not a bot. Not somebody that's just cool on social media. No, like a real live mental coach. Somebody that knows what they're doing. Somebody that has experience. Somebody that has Olympians or pros stacked up, that they've helped or worked with, that can vouch for. Yeah, not somebody that's just popular. The accessible piece was, Dave and I looked at it and we said, we want to solve that and give people an available option where you can work with somebody on a continual basis on the low. We were at a coffee shop earlier as a team. Your coffee, I bought your coffee. George's coffee today costs $5.40. My coffee, because I got a large, I don't even know what it was. It was good though. But it costs $6.40. Combined between George and I, we spent $12, $13, I don't know, for 2 coffees. Freaking kidding me?
Inflation.
Jacob, I don't even know what he got, but
Mine was about.
You didn't even let me pay for yours.
Mine was a small. It was probably like $4.50, something like that.
Stack that up between all 3 of us. Check this out. Our app is $3 a month. $3. You know what that breaks down to? 10 cents a day. You stack it all up. There's about $18 spent. That would buy 6 months of our app. So, basic question: do you really want to get better?
Because you have a lot of sports psychologists that they're going to charge you, they're going to charge you upwards of $150 an hour, let alone, a month.
And I mean, hey, kudos, God bless them.
Yeah.
Right. But what we wanted to do is, as a team, we wanted to solve one of the biggest glaring gaps in our field. So what we doubled down on was we're going to commit to building this technology. And it's not rocket science. But what it is a commitment to the soul business. It's a commitment to really helping people. And that's what we're after. As an athlete, if I was a collegiate athlete, kind of like I was, and I had a deep desire to want to be the best I could, always had the desire. I just didn't know how. Nobody taught me. I was reading books on psychology in 2006 and 2007 because YouTube hadn't been invented yet. I mean, if it was around, somebody's going to fact check.
It was like, oh, wait.
If it was around back then, I didn't know about it. Okay, so, and you, trust me, YouTube in its early years is not like what it is today.
It was like, here's my day at the zoo. On this first video.
YouTube, back then was like people still holding like a camera over their shoulder kind of stuff. So the how-to videos didn't come around for years after. I didn't have access to them in my early years being a collegiate athlete. But if I knew that I had something available for $3 less than that crappy coffee, although it was good, that crappy coffee that I'm going to pee out in about the next 2 hours, how could I not do that?
Well, I mean, George, when you're in college. Like, if you were to pay a sports psychologist per month, you probably wouldn't have been able to afford it, right? You're in college.
No, absolutely not. And that's one of the big reasons why I did, and why I have a lot of emphasis in trying to work with college athletes, because I've experienced that. Well, I've had struggles in that world, and a lot of resources available.
Or if there are, they're too expensive. Because you, as a college student, you're mostly going to be broke. I mean, let's be real. So, I mean, that's why we've made it, 10 cents a day.
The other piece that Dave and I wanted to solve is even if you purchase the course, you own it. You download it to your phone, you keep it for offline use, download it, keep it forever. That's yours.
The streaming services are going to give you streaming services. If Netflix goes out of business, you guys aren't getting Stranger Things no more.
I know it just brings me back to my original point of people are very comfortable going to a coffee shop, dropping $8, $10, $12 on coffee, but they're not comfortable enough to invest that into their mental health.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a big thing.
All right. Well, we're on a podcast. We're roundtable discussing this. It matters to us, but the reason why it matters to us is not just performance. As a company, our mission and our vision is we are connecting deeper, and we care so much more about who you're becoming. If you aren't concerned about that, this should be a warning flag to anybody listening. You need to get serious about that, because I'm telling you, the world is constantly trying to conform you. It is constantly trying to conform your standards and to define that for you. I'm just telling you, if you're a friend with the world, you're going to have some problems. I'm just telling you right now. Don't believe me? Look around. And I'm sick and tired of sitting back and being reactive. This is just me. And as a company, Dave and I looked at this and we rolled up on this and said, no more. We're going to be proactive. And the way we're going to be proactive is we're going to start attacking these areas that truly do matter. Sport happens to be a cool vehicle. Great. But I don't care if it's a parent. I don't care if it's a coach. I don't care if it's a program. I don't care if it's an athletic director. I mean, they want to make a difference in their world that they're in. This should be a priority. And do not let price get in the way. Hey, by the way, do you know how much you can make mowing your neighbor's lawn one time? I don't care if you're 14 years old. You know how much? $10. Huh, that might pay for all of 3 months. George and I were at a Starbucks about 2-3 months ago. We met with an athlete in a family. It's a one-on-one client that engaged in our services. And as we got up to leave, you know what we found in that booth? A dime. 10 cents a day. Mental training, or if being better mentally and emotionally and becoming a better you is actually important and actually matters, you're not willing to actually invest, truly doesn't matter. Whether it's us or anybody else, I don't really care. I'm just telling you, who you are becoming should matter. And if you've not spent any time thinking about it, I challenge you to start thinking about it, because trust me when I say this, the world cares a lot about conforming you. We as a company believe in transforming your mind for good. We are in the transformational business. And it's not business, but it is. So we care a lot about that. And guys, if I could put a dollar figure on how much we've invested over the last 4 years in this space, it's north of $55,000 to $60,000. Trying to figure out how to help athletes. And hey, let's be real, as a company, we figured out a lot of things not to do. Great. A lot of ways to not deliver online content, a lot of ways how to improve, but hey, fine. But the mission has always remained the same. 5 minutes, be intentional, and work aggressively how to brain train. Work aggressively to be very deliberate about who you're becoming on a daily basis. And again, the world is constantly trying to tell you how to think and how to feel about things.
Well, I mean, one of the things that, like, whether, our athletes become Hall of Fame level players, it's not. Like, it's great, but not everyone's destined to be a Hall of Fame player. But even if they are, we would want them to walk up to that podium and say, I'm a better person.
Amen.
Not I'm a better athlete.
Amen.
because if like for me, like, you know, I don't know what my athletic journey is going to hold for things, but I can definitively say, you know, I'm a better person because of Hearts and Minds and because of Focus 5 and because of what we've done. And athletic careers are so short. Like, even if your longevity, let's look at, you know, LeBron James, whatever. I mean, he's 40 years old. Longevity's there. But, I mean, the man's 40, and we think his career has been long.
Right.
He's still got
Half his life,
half his
maybe.
life, probably, based on the average age of males. He's got over half his life remaining. So even if you're an all-time great athlete and you're a Hall of Famer, first ballot in any of your sport, you're still probably going to be done by your mid-30s.
Yes. Yes.
Every career has an expiration.
Amen.
Every single career. A lot of people, they don't want to believe that. Heck, I didn't believe it. I thought
You feel you're this forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the most impactful thing that I worked with an athlete with, and Trevor and I were talking about this a while back, is putting things in perspective. It's focusing on the days, not seasons.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about that of like, you know what? I don't have a lot of seasons left, but I
Yeah.
have a lot of days left. Puts things in perspective. Definitely changes your mindset. You're working for the day.
Yeah.
Or the season.
Preach.
It's very impactful.
And I think it's dangerous now because now we're getting into, if you want to talk college, we're getting into the collegiate era of NIL, where you're having athletes that, you know, they're very valuable. So they're like, oh, if I don't perform enough money, I'm not, like, the professionalism aspect is bled into the college space really quick. So you're going to run into a lot of athletes. Oh, I'm not performing well. What if I don't perform well? I won't make my money, my contracts, my bonuses, which is normally something you would only focus on once you go pro.
Right.
Right. But now you're seeing it's bleeding into the college game a lot. Whether you want to say that's a good or bad thing with money, that's a flat out topic. But the point is that athletes need this more now than probably any other in history.
Totally. And it's not getting easier.
No.
So I was a small college athlete. I know, George, you were too at one point, being in junior college. But small colleges, small schools, we create a Focus 5 for them.
Because it doesn't matter what division you are. NAIA, D3, D2, D1, we don't care.
And it doesn't matter your budget. Trust me when I say this. Everybody has the ability to work for $3 a month. Get creative. I come from a state where you can recycle a pop can for 5 cents a nickel. I don't know. You're smart. How many nickels is that?
Oh, like 5 cents out of like $3? Is that, or 10? Well, I mean, in one day you put 2 pop cans in. You have one day. And now people complete surveys online for
cash.
For cash, you know, it's a small amount, but in the terms of when we're charging $3 a month, you can go fill out a couple surveys.
Okay, so extrapolate it. It's actually $36 for 12 months. Do you think you could go mow 2 yards in your community? Do you think you could go rake leaves if you live up north and leaves drop?
You think you have something lying around your house that you can sell on eBay for $36?
How about you go and... Okay, we could get real creative. George and I, we actually had thought about this. If we're going to go to like a Costco parking lot, we're going to sit down a phone, we're going to time lapse it, and we're going to have a race in the competition. Who can find as many dimes or nickels or even quarters? Hey, you find a quarter, even better, right? But we're gonna have a race. Who can find the most amount of change in 10 minutes? I would guarantee you that could pay for mental training. Our point is we wanted to solve one of the glaring issues in our field. And by the way, nobody gets rich off $3 a month. Matter of fact, we're pretty close to taking a loss there, guys, because of the overhead involved. We want to transform the heart. How do we get there? It starts with a mental decision. It starts with a commitment. We want to transform the mindset too. Our mission is really simple. But what it really comes down to is it comes down to a commitment and a willingness to get uncomfortable. A willingness to recognize my identity is not attached to sport. A willingness to recognize that, like, there are more important things in life sometimes than just sport and my performance. but we got to get real serious, real fast on what really matters. What we do and what we train, what we teach is doubling down on. As a company, we're not backing away either. So there's a lot of mental training apps out there. And there's a lot of other guys in the field doing similar things. Nobody's doing what we're doing. And part of the reason why, I'll just be really blunt, because I'm the owner of this company, and I kind of see some things that you guys don't see on the administrative side, on the back end, on the business side. Part of the reason why nobody's willing to do this is because it's borderline career suicide. It's borderline, we're selling our soul, but we're not. We're selling out for the soul.
That's social media virality.
I don't care about getting rich. I just don't care. I said no to that life a long time ago. But I said yes to influencing lives and helping people out every day.
I mean, like I said, you got to realize, you were working for some of the best athletes in the world.
Oh, yeah, man. Dude, boy, we could tell stories some other time on another podcast, but I could have stayed on payroll with a few people and lived a pretty cushy lifestyle. I don't care about that. I'd much rather work with that 11, 12-year-old young Jacob who's getting ticked at himself, and you're giving me headaches.
Yeah.
I'd much rather work with him. And the reason why is because there's a desire and a willingness to get better. You wanted it. I don't care about that top 20 tennis player that doesn't want it. I do care about him. I love him. I do love him. I love him more than he ever would ever know. But he became uncoachable. And that's one example I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of an Olympic bronze medalist I work with. That athlete came from not a third world country, but a country that's not first world as we know it. They had a desire to get better. They couldn't afford to pay me. I don't care. Do you have a desire to get better? Yeah. Do you have a desire to improve? Yeah. Let's go. And as long as I'm running the ship, this is what matters. We're borderline selling our soul, building what we're building, working to help those athletes. We sold out for the soul. And that's who we are. Let's bring this one to a close, shall we?
Well, yeah.
Hey, if you enjoyed this, do us a favor. Share it. Share it with one person that you think could hear this message today. Some of you may be moved. Some of you may get flat downright ticked. Some of you may feel like, boy, these guys are really selling this $3 app hard. Yeah, I am. Full disclosure, I am. And the reason why is because we're so confident that we have something that's special. That's why. You're not going to find what we're doing elsewhere. And yeah, there's going to be some copycats and imitators. Let me just tell you, we were one of the first on the scene in 2020. The mission, attitude, the approach was never changed.
And we're real people.
And we're real. So if this helped you, if there's one nugget of information in here, let us know. If there's something that we that you think we could help with, let us know too. We're very easy to get a hold of. My team, this is incredibly responsive, and they all share the same heartbeat that I have towards loving others and helping others, the deep profound level. So yeah, if you think I'm selling it hard, yeah, I am. I'm okay with that. It's time to get off your butts and quit being reactive. Why do we have to wait till there's a problem to fix it? Why do we have to wait till there's an issue before we actually commit to working on problems, challenges, adversities? Why do we have to wait till we're uncomfortable to really be forced to ask the hard question? Who I am as a person? Quit waiting. Get proactive. Start working on these things before you run into that life adversity that brings you to your knees. Trust me when I say this. You haven't lived long enough. If you haven't had that moment, you will have it. It's inevitable. It's part of life. My advice is, and my ask is really simple and straightforward. if this is good for you in one path, one area, one thing, share it. Share it. I'd be honored and thankful for any opportunity that you can give us a little bit of air, a little bit of exposure, to let other people know of who we are. Trust me when I say this, I'm not going to put myself on the billboard. But these guys that work with us and on our team, they deserve every moment and ounce of your support, at least recognition, because of the ability that they all have uniquely to impact lives and bring change. I'm Trevor. I'm founder of this awesome vision that we have of influencing lives and helping people. It's been fun. This is the first time we've got together and done this as the three of us. We're probably going to be doing a lot more round
table. Banter.
Round talk. Signing off. Hearts and minds. Get mental.